Welcome back to our channel. Today we're diving into a dramatic and bold story. Imagine pushing all boundaries just for a little fun. That's exactly what led to the intense situation surrounding Diddy. Allegedly, when Diddy faced serious charges, he tried to offer a staggering $50 million to secure his freedom. However, when the judge denied his bail request not once but twice, the story took an unexpected twist. Rumor has it that Diddy didn't simply accept this decision quietly. Instead, he allegedly threatened the judge, determined to use his immense wealth as leverage. Did he really try to buy his way out? Drop a comment with the number 1 and join us as we uncover the gripping details of this fascinating tale. September 17th was a significant day for Diddy, marking his first court appearance following his shocking arrest. Everyone assumed that with his massive fortune, there was no reason for Diddy to remain in jail. He was an icon in the music industry, worth millions of dollars, and it seemed like he could easily use his wealth to get out of this situation. However, things were not that simple. Diddy appeared in court looking calm and determined, accompanied by a team of lawyers ready to do whatever it took to get him out of jail. Diddy's team wasn't playing around. They had prepared a staggering $50 million bail to secure his release. But it wasn't just cash. They also offered Diddy's $48 million Miami mansion as collateral. It's almost unbelievable that an entire mansion would be used to guarantee that he wouldn't flee. And if that wasn't enough, his team even put up his mother's house as additional collateral. When it comes to leveraging your mother's assets, it's clear just how serious the situation is. It didn't stop there. Diddy and his team also submitted all of their passports, including his own, his mother's, and his daughter's, to prove that they had no plans to leave the country. This wasn't just an ordinary bail request, it was a bold statement. Diddy was willing to do whatever it took to get out of jail. The $50 million bail was one of the largest ever seen, and Diddy's team hoped it would be enough to convince the court. But this wasn't just about flaunting wealth, it was also a message. Diddy wanted to prove that he wasn't going to evade the charges and that he would always show up when the court required. However, this time, things were far from simple. The charges against Diddy weren't minor infractions, but serious crimes that could result in years of imprisonment. For Diddy, who has been at the top of the music industry for decades, these allegations were shocking. Prosecutors claimed that Diddy wasn't just guilty of a single misstep, but was the mastermind behind a complex network spanning many years. The lavish parties once celebrated as gatherings of the artistic elite are now being cast in a much darker light. Prosecutors allege that Diddy wasn't merely a host, but tightly controlled every detail of these events, from welcoming guests to ensuring everything unfolded exactly as he wanted. With bail set at $50 million, many believed the amount was sufficient to ensure that Diddy wouldn't flee. After all, he's a global star, a familiar face, and lives his life under public scrutiny. However, it seems that even such an enormous sum couldn't outweigh the severity of the charges. This time, the tension escalated further as prosecutors demonstrated that they were well prepared and determined not to let Diddy leave the courtroom without a fight. Evidence revealed that Diddy had approached witnesses and victims in the months leading up to his arrest. According to prosecutors, he didn't just attempt reconciliation, but actively tried to manipulate their narratives, seeking to control their testimony before the truth could come to light. The atmosphere in the courtroom was so tense that any judge would need to remain on high alert. With a $50 million bail, it seemed like Diddy could easily walk out of jail. However, Judge Robin Tarnowski saw through the enormous sum, the mansion, and his promises. In her eyes, Diddy posed too great a risk. Given the serious charges against him, there was no way she would grant him bail, especially when he had the potential to influence witnesses or use his financial power to interfere with the case. Many believed Diddy could buy his freedom with his immense wealth, but from the moment he faced Judge Tarnowski, it was clear that she wouldn't be swayed by the bail amount. She wasn't just determined to be firm, she was resolute in upholding justice, refusing to let Diddy's financial power and flashy image influence her decision. Judge Tarnowski is known for her toughness and fairness, with a solid track record of basing her rulings on the facts. The $50 million figure in Diddy's case didn't faze her because she understood that the truth lay in the severity of the charges, not in the amount he was willing to pay. One of the main reasons Judge Tarnowski denied Diddy's bail request was that she considered him a significant flight risk. With his immense wealth, properties around the world, private jets, and extensive network of connections, Diddy could easily disappear without a trace if he chose to dot. Although his legal team had surrendered his and his family's passports, for someone with Diddy's resources, that was merely a minor hurdle. In a short amount of time, he could easily leave the United States and settle in a country without an extradition treaty. For Judge Tarnowski, the severity of the charges, crimes that could result in decades of imprisonment, was not worth the risk. Allowing someone with such immense power and wealth to be released on bail posed a monumental risk. If Diddy were to flee, it would not only embarrass the court, but also deprive the victims of their chance to seek justice. Another reason Diddy's bail request was denied was the allegation that he had attempted to interfere with witness testimonies. According to prosecutors, Diddy didn't just wait for his day in court, but actively contacted witnesses and victims to persuade them to side with him and alter their stories. This raised concerns among the judges that if Diddy was willing to influence witnesses before his arrest, there would be nothing to stop him from doing it again if released on bail. When considering the bail request, Judge Tarnowski identified multiple red flags and decided not to give Diddy any opportunity to manipulate the case. The prosecutors didn't just present vague allegations. They came prepared with a comprehensive dossier of evidence showing that Diddy had attempted to control the situation. They had phone recordings, emails, and witness statements indicating that Diddy had contacted individuals to influence the case. These weren't weak arguments, but compelling evidence that made it difficult for Diddy's legal team to refute. Judge Tarnowski had every reason to believe that releasing Diddy would severely compromise the integrity of the case. Diddy's legal team entered the courtroom confident that they would prevail with their $50 million bail proposal. They believed such a massive sum would be enough to persuade the judge. They even suggested house arrest with GPS monitoring, thinking these measures would ease the judge's concerns. Not stopping at offering a large sum, Diddy's lawyers also argued that he was not a flight risk because he had voluntarily flown to New York to face the charges. They claimed that if Diddy truly intended to flee, he wouldn't have shown up knowing the situation. In their view, this was clear evidence that Diddy was ready to face whatever came his way. However, Judge Tarnowski remained steadfast, no matter how hard Diddy's legal team tried. She believed that the risk Diddy posed was too significant to ignore. After the initial bail request was denied, Diddy and his team continued to appeal, hoping that federal Judge Andrew L. Carter might see things differently. Yet it turned out that Judge Carter was just as firm and unwilling to grant Diddy his freedom this time. Diddy's legal team realized they needed to propose stricter conditions beyond the $50 million bail. They introduced new terms, including weekly drug testing, house arrest with a limited visitor list restricted to family members and caregivers. They even pledged to keep a detailed log of everyone entering and leaving Diddy's Miami mansion, explicitly ensuring that no female visitors, other than family members, would be allowed. Despite their best efforts to convince the court that Diddy would not cause trouble if released on bail, Judge Carter remained unconvinced. His decision was largely based on Diddy's past behavior and the issues surrounding his temper, which the prosecution did not hesitate to highlight. Diddy had been involved in numerous public altercations, and the prosecution presented specific examples showing that he could pose a serious threat if released. The concern wasn't just whether Diddy might flee, but also the potential risk of him harming witnesses or others involved in the case, a risk that neither Judge Carter nor the prosecution was willing to accept. Although Diddy's legal team proposed strict conditions, from weekly testing to limiting visitors, they still failed to convince the court that Diddy no longer posed a threat. The court ruled that even under house arrest, Diddy's significant power and influence would allow him to manipulate the case from afar. The comfort of his Miami mansion would not prevent him from accessing witnesses or influencing the investigation, jeopardizing the integrity of the trial. After his second bail request was denied, things became even more chaotic as rumors emerged that Diddy had made threats against Judge Robin Tarnowski. These rumors spread rapidly, creating a tense atmosphere around the case. Let's face it, we're talking about Diddy, a man accustomed to getting everything he wants. With $50 million on the line and no way out, it's not hard to imagine him losing his composure. But would Diddy really go so far as to threaten the person standing in his way? That's the critical question. When someone like Diddy, who has dominated the world for decades, suddenly finds themselves locked in a jail cell, despair can set in quickly. After the court denied his second bail request, it wouldn't be surprising if he reacted with anger. Rumors suggest that in a fit of rage, Diddy may have made some not-so-subtle threats against Judge Tarnowski. But as with any rumor, it's hard to separate fact from fiction. So is it true? That's the million-dollar question. The reality is that no one knows for certain if Diddy actually threatened Tarnowski, but under these circumstances, it's not impossible. Diddy has always been someone who pursues what he wants relentlessly, both in business and in his personal life. With his entire empire on the line, he's undoubtedly feeling the pressure. Having faced two judges who denied his bail, and now with Judge Andrew L. Carter slamming the door on his hopes, the consecutive setbacks could push even the calmest person to their breaking point, let alone someone as powerful and accustomed to winning as Diddy. Diddy is no stranger to this game. He's known for bold moves and refusing to take no for an answer. If these rumors are true, they not only reflect his strong-willed personality but also worsen his situation. Facing serious charges is already challenging, but adding a threat against a federal judge could make things significantly more severe. Perhaps Diddy let his anger get the best of him, leading him to say things he shouldn't have. Given his history of outbursts, this could be a classic example, or just a baseless rumor. You know how rumors spread, especially when someone as high profile as Diddy is involved. People love to speculate, and with the high stakes and media attention surrounding this case, it's no surprise that rumors are flying, true or not. But let's examine the facts to understand why this is such a big deal. If Diddy did indeed threaten Judge Tarnowski, it could lead to much more serious legal trouble for him. And I'm not just talking about minor issues. Threatening a judge is a serious federal offense, with additional charges that could add years, even decades, to his prison sentence if convicted. This would further escalate the already massive charges he's facing, and the court would undoubtedly treat such allegations with the utmost severity. This rumor is especially dangerous for Diddy because he is already in a precarious position with allegations of witness tampering and influencing victims. The last thing he needs is a new accusation that he is using threats to get what he wants. If there's any truth to these allegations, it paints a picture of someone willing to do whatever it takes to avoid the consequences of his actions. This is exactly what the prosecution is trying to prove in court. That Diddy is not just a wealthy businessman who made mistakes, but someone who has abused his power and influence to bend the law for years. Diddy's new life at MDC Brooklyn has only gotten more difficult after his second bail denial. Currently, Diddy is being held at the Metropolitan Detention Center, MDC, in Brooklyn, a place far from pleasant. This isn't a luxurious prison for celebrities or wealthy individuals in trouble. MDC is infamous for its harsh living conditions. The stories about this facility make it seem like a nightmare for someone like Diddy, who is used to living in mansions, flying private jets, and being surrounded by luxury. For him, MDC is like stepping into hell. Imagine going from having everything at your fingertips to being locked in a cell every day, with no phone calls, no fresh air, and no visitors from the outside world. This is the reality Diddy is currently facing. From what we know, his situation doesn't look promising. Conditions at MDC are extremely harsh. Inmates are often confined for days at a time, sometimes even longer, meaning no phone calls, no visits, and not even the chance to shower. Can you picture someone like Diddy, who likely hasn't spent a single day without luxury in decades, suddenly thrown into this environment? It's the complete opposite of the life he's accustomed to, and the stark contrast is nothing short of terrifying. Instead of lounging by the pool, Diddy now faces overcrowded cells, poor quality food, and a lack of basic sanitation. It's undoubtedly a massive challenge for him. But that's not even the worst part. MDC is notorious for being chaotic and dangerous, not only due to the prison population, but also because of severe understaffing, which makes everything unpredictable. Incidents occur frequently, and the guards are often so overwhelmed that maintaining control becomes a significant challenge. MDC is also infamous for its illegal drug trade, and believe it or not, some guards have even been accused of being involved in these activities. This means that Diddy is not only stuck in a filthy and overcrowded prison, but also in a place where anything can happen at any moment, with no guarantees of safety. For someone like him, who thrives on being in control, this must be his worst nightmare. At MDC, Diddy is just another prisoner, and all the money and power in the world cannot change the fact that he is being held in one of the harshest prisons in the country. It's undoubtedly a difficult adjustment. Imagine Diddy's life, surrounded by luxurious mansions, designer clothes, and private jets. He built his brand on a lavish lifestyle, and now all of that has been stripped away. Instead of relaxing at his Miami condo or flying to a tropical island, Diddy now finds himself confined to a small cell, surrounded by other inmates, many of whom have been in the prison system for years. His freedom, luxury, and control are gone. There's no doubt that he feels the impact of this stark reality every single day. The living conditions at MDC are so poor that inmates have been complaining for years without any significant changes. Stories of being denied basic necessities like food and medical care, coupled with the facility's near-chaotic state, paint a grim picture. For someone like Diddy, who is accustomed to the very best, adapting to a life like this is undoubtedly a form of torture. How is Diddy coping with this situation? From what we've heard, not well. He is described as frustrated, angry, and struggling to adjust to his new environment. Who can blame him? This is not the life he once knew. In fact, unless there is a breakthrough in his case, this might very well be Diddy's new normal for quite some time. Diddy's arrest on September 16th started off as an ordinary day, but we now know it was anything but. The charges were closing in, and Diddy could sense that something was amiss. His legal team had been preparing for the inevitable, but no one could have predicted how quickly everything would unfold. Federal authorities were closer to him than ever, and Diddy had no idea they were about to arrest him. It's almost unbelievable that just hours before his arrest, Diddy was completely unaware of the storm brewing around him. Imagine this: a man who has dominated the music industry for decades, enjoying a day in Central Park with his son, Christian. To anyone watching, it looked like just another ordinary day, a billionaire basking in the sunny afternoon in New York. Diddy appeared calm, as if nothing could shake him. But while he was relishing his luxurious life, the federal government was quietly executing their plan. It's almost unimaginable. One moment Diddy was relaxing with his son, and the next, everything began to fall apart. He had no idea that federal agents were closing in, and in less than 24 hours, his entire world would change. This wasn't a scene from a movie. This was Diddy's reality, a life never short of drama. Just a few hours later, everything began to shift at a rapid pace. As Diddy continued moving around the city, seemingly carefree, he was spotted with a group of friends, laughing and having a good time. There were no visible signs of concern or anxiety. It seemed as though he felt untouchable, treating the looming legal troubles as a mere inconvenience. However, the reality was that time was running out, and federal authorities were tightening the net around him. The indictment reveals a darker side of Diddy, shedding light on a part of his life that the public had remained unaware of for years. It is filled with shocking details surrounding the lavish parties Diddy allegedly hosted for his personal gratification. These events were far from ordinary gatherings. They were meticulously planned with every detail carefully orchestrated, from the location to the timing. Clearly, these were not spontaneous get-togethers, but carefully organized events designed to fulfill Diddy's complex desires. But it didn't stop at meticulous planning. When the parties began, things often took an unexpected turn. Many documents from the indictment suggest that Diddy was far from being a passive observer. The picture painted is of a man accustomed to getting whatever he wanted regardless of the cost. When federal agents raided Diddy's home, they didn't just find the luxurious items you'd expect from a billionaire. They also uncovered bottles of baby oil and lubricants, physical evidence that corroborated allegations that had been circulating for months. The raids on Diddy's properties marked a significant turning point in the case. Previously, everything was seen as rumors and accusations, but when the federal government gathered concrete evidence, the narrative shifted. The scale and scope of Diddy's parties became undeniable, revealing a much darker reality behind the facade of opulence. The most shocking aspect is how he managed to keep everything hidden for so many years. The public once saw Diddy as a charismatic and successful entrepreneur who had built an empire from nothing. However, the indictment has stripped away that facade, exposing the true nature of a man who allegedly used his power and influence to harm others. The RICO Act charges against Diddy are no small matter. When people think of the RICO Act, they usually associate it with large criminal gangs, not music moguls. So why is Diddy being charged under this law? The RICO Act was created to dismantle organized crime, and in this case, prosecutors allege that Diddy's entire operation falls under its scope. Enacted in 1970, the RICO Act aims to take down criminal organizations by targeting their leaders, even if they do not directly participate in the crimes themselves. This is a strict law, used when the government believes someone has operated a long-running criminal enterprise involving multiple crimes tied to a central organization. If convicted under the RICO Act, penalties can be severe, including decades in prison, hefty fines, and the complete dismantling of their operations. Prosecutors allege that Diddy didn't just occasionally cross the line. He built an empire spanning more than a decade, and they're prepared to prove it. Diddy's alleged activities extended beyond music and entertainment. Worst of all, he didn't act alone. He had a team of associates who were not just business partners, but also enforcers who helped him protect his interests and empire. Over the years, Diddy's team is alleged to have kept everything under wraps. This is exactly where the RICO charges come into play. Prosecutors claim that Diddy didn't just commit crimes as an individual, but acted as the head of an organized crime syndicate. Every action he is accused of, ranging from hosting extravagant parties to acts of violence, is tied to a larger network. When federal agents raided Diddy's Miami mansion, his past came back to haunt him like a nightmare. The RICO charges are just the tip of the iceberg. Diddy's legal troubles trace back far longer than the current allegations. His past has resurfaced in the form of multiple lawsuits and emerging stories, painting a troubling picture of the man behind the music mogul persona. Some of these lawsuits are new, while others have been ongoing for years. However, they all share one common thread. They reveal a pattern of control and manipulation that's hard to ignore. This brings us to the lawsuit filed by Lil Rod Jones, a producer who once worked with Diddy. Jones's lawsuit is particularly concerning because it not only highlights Diddy's character, but also exposes how he treated his collaborators. Jones claims that this behavior had persisted for a long time, leaving him feeling trapped. The details of Jones's lawsuit paint a picture of a man unafraid to wield his position of power. The most troubling part is that this isn't an isolated incident. It fits into a larger narrative that has been building for years. This narrative suggests that Diddy used his influence not just to achieve success in the music industry, but also to exert control over those around him. One of the most prominent lawsuits comes from his ex-girlfriend, Cassie. Years ago, Cassie filed a lawsuit detailing the emotional and physical issues she faced during her relationship with Diddy. According to Cassie, Diddy controlled her for years, dictating every aspect of her life. Cassie's story becomes even more troubling as it highlights a clear pattern of behavior that aligns with the current allegations against Diddy. After Cassie's lawsuit gained attention, many other women began to come forward and share their stories. The image Diddy once portrayed is now far from positive, as women from various walks of life speak out, echoing Cassie's claims. While some lawsuits have been settled, it's undeniable that the overall picture is becoming increasingly clear. Even as many of these cases remain pending, they cast a dark shadow over Diddy's ongoing legal battles. These lawsuits are not just a burden, but also a significant blow to Diddy's ability to defend himself in court. The prosecution can leverage past lawsuits to build a narrative suggesting that Diddy's behavior was not an isolated incident, but a long-standing pattern, a way of life spanning many years. This is exactly what they are doing. By highlighting Diddy's history of control, they are demonstrating that the current allegations are not merely a misunderstanding, but part of a much larger story that has been unfolding over the years. What do you think about this issue? Share your thoughts in the comments section below. Thank you for watching our video.